Welcome to episode 13 already of the Danny Miner podcast. And folks, we have a case back from 1978, a missing mother. We have her daughter, Jamie, on the podcast. Welcome, Jamie. When your mom went missing, you were 2 years old. Am I correct? 2.
I was 2.
Oh my gosh. So Jamie, let me ask you something. I think back, I was 4 years old when my grandfather passed away, right? And I still have like bits and pieces of what he looked like and stuff like that. But I wish I knew his personality, stuff like that. So I'm assuming that's the same way you feel, right?
It is. Yeah, I don't have any memories, but I wish I just had a few, right?
Yes. I mean, I can't even imagine. So when did they tell you this happened to your mom? Did you know that at 2 years old?
Well, I don't ever remember not knowing. So my dad was always really, really open about it. So I don't ever have a time that I felt like I had this aha moment and, oh my goodness, something happened,
Right. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's just unbelievable. So you grew up, I mean, think about this. I'm trying to wrap my head around this, being 2 years old and growing up thinking, my mom, I don't know if my mom's dead. I don't know where she is. She could just be missing. She could be held up somewhere. Somebody could have kidnapped her. I mean, I can't even imagine growing up like that. It had to be hard. Do you have siblings too, Jamie?
Not with my mom and dad. No, I have half with my dad, but no. So it was just me.
Okay, it's just you. Oh my God. So it had to be hard growing up. When did you decide, listen, if the cops ain't going to look into this disappearance, I'm going to?
Well, in the fashion that I am now, it was about almost a year and a half ago, a year and 5 months ago was when I really said, if I don't do this now, it's going to be over, because this is 45 years. So it's either now or never, because I have a short time frame of time to talk to people that were around in that time. And that's it. It'll be done.
Right. And you know what? I think back here. I mean, I'm 55 years old. So I'm thinking I was 10 years old when your mom disappeared. So listen, let's go back to that whole thing. Let's go back to that day it happened. Your mom, I remember doing the video. Your mom was out with friends. I researched this. It was in Seattle, correct?
Yes.
At a bar. It was like a disco called Fango's. And back in the 70s, discos were big, right? That was it. Disco, Doc. Remember all that stuff? So right. I assume this was a normal thing people did on the weekends. They went out to discos. So if you want to explain what happened that day, that'd be great.
Sure. So she was there with a gentleman that she was basically a colleague at work. And they had gone on a couple of dates in the past. They were not dating now.
Okay.
And they were there with another couple that was this gentleman's roommates, and then my mom's roommate. So my mom and I's roommate.
Right.
And were there. It was a Thursday night, and they were there for an actual dance competition for money.
Okay.
And they were there, and somewhere in the evening, my mom is known as a little bit of a spitfire.
Okay.
And this gentleman got in an argument. And apparently she decided that she was going to leave.
Okay.
And so apparently this gentleman left first, as the story goes.
Okay.
And then at some point around midnight, they say she left. She had a couple of drinks, not a lot, but a couple of drinks in the evening, apparently. And then she said she was going to walk home. That's what she said.
Okay.
And she was never seen again. That was it. Well, there is a story about the couple that was there that night leaving quite a long time later, but only seeing her about a half mile away from the disco. And it was the opposite direction of their home, and her refusing a ride. Now, mind you, her home was maybe a little under 5 miles away from the disco.
Okay. So it was under 5 miles. Huh. I'll tell you what, I'm just trying to, as a detective, I was a detective for 14 years. Just right off that story, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm going to look at the guy your mom met at the bar. That's the first person I'm looking at. I got to clear him first, because right off, he's the suspect in my head. As a cop, as a detective, I'm sorry, that's the first person I'm looking at, and I have to clear them. Did the cops interview him?
They did. They did. They interviewed him and my dad.
Okay. And your dad.
Yeah.
Okay. What did they interview your dad for? Do you know? Just to see anything he knew?
He's the ex-husband. You know,
Okay.
I was with my dad that night, and he was at some function that there were several people said he was there with them. So he was, but they did lie detector test those two men as well, and they both passed.
And they both passed. Okay. So your mom, that guy in the bar that she met, she didn't know him long at all, right? She was just meeting this guy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't know how long exactly, but I know she only worked at the hotel for, I don't know, 4 to 6 months. So however long it wasn't much longer than that. It wasn't that long, any longer than that anyways. So
that, you know. Okay. And now the only evidence, and I did a video on this, which is crazy. They end up finding your mom's driver's license. No wallet, no clothing, nothing, just her driver's license. Now, did you ask your father, did your mom just carry her driver's license like in her pocket? Was it in her purse? Because that's weird. That's weird.
So she had a purse and a wallet with her that night.
Okay.
And of course, we're going to assume her driver's license was in those.
Right.
So that's, the assumption. So yes, no, she had a purse. They even described the purse. It's in the, it's part of her file that, she had this purse with her. Here's the significant thing about the license.
Okay.
One, it's nowhere to be found. To me, that's a little bit of a problem.
What do you mean it's nowhere to be found? The police never collected the license.
Well, if they did, it's nowhere to be found.
Oh, see, here's the thing. I don't know if you know this, Jamie, but and I'm not saying your mom was murdered, okay? But in a homicide case or a case like this, in homicide, there is no statute of limitations. So you cannot destroy evidence in a case like that. Like other cases, theft, after a couple of years, you could go to the judge and they give you a destruction order and you could destroy evidence. But in a case like your mom's, that license should still be in that police department's evidence room. It should still be there. But in 1978, I don't know what the quality of cops were in 1978. You know what I mean? I hate to say it. They probably weren't as good as the cops now. I hate to say that, but it's probably true. You know?
Yes, for sure.
They weren't trained.
And here's the other thing that was not put together until I put it together. The license was found, well, it was 10 miles approximately north of where she went missing.
Okay. As
a crow flies, it was maybe a quarter mile from where the gentleman she was with lived.
And it wasn't in Seattle anymore. Was it? What's the name of that town? Isn't there a different
Lake City, Lake Forest Park, Lake City.
Okay. So it was 10 miles. Oh my gosh. That's very suspicious. First of all, why is the driver's license out of the person's wallet? That you got to ask yourself, how did that get out of her wallet, right? So right away, I'm thinking robbery. They took your mom's stuff, but you said your mom. I think you said your mom only had like $1 on her, right?
Well, I didn't say that, and I do know that, but they said that she had less than $1 in her purse. I don't know how you would know that, but that is something that they have said.
But see, her getting out, that makes me think your mom was robbed somehow. I mean, it really does, or she was robbed, or something. I mean, let's put it this way. Your mom did not throw that driver's license out by herself. Your mom did not take that driver's license out 10 miles from where she was and throw it in the corner on an intersection, right? It's a major intersection. Am I correct?
It is. It's where I-5 and 405 cross, which are their two main freeways in Washington State.
Oh my gosh. So now listen, we talked a little bit off air. The local PD now is starting to ask questions where your mom is 45 years later, and it's probably because you're squeaking a little bit. When you squeak like this, cops saying that start paying attention. So I'm really glad you're on here, because I'm telling you, as a 14-year detective, and Jamie, things just keep coming in. You know what I mean? Like, you're a detective, your desk is full, and then the next day more cases come in and more cases come in, and you start putting them on the back burner. And I hate to say this, but it's kind of like human nature. But if you stay on the cops, they're going to, like I said, the squeaky wheel will also always get attention. And that's why you're getting attention, which is great. I mean, it's awesome that you got attention.
Yes, absolutely. And here's the thing. The story goes really deep, Danny. And the hard part is that, and you'll appreciate this because you were a cop.
Right.
Evidence is the evidence, right? That's what you follow, right?
Yes.
However, we have uncovered a lot of evidence, but it's not the kind of evidence that maybe you would look at in this kind of, so like her license is the only evidence, right?
Right.
But like my mom was being followed by somebody before she went missing.
That's huge. That's evidence right there.
Well, and she was being followed by somebody that my grandfather had her being followed. And we know that because she told people that.
Okay.
So there's things like that need to be taken into consideration in some way. Where does this all point? It all points to a lot of different crazy things, right? But there's so many pieces that we feel like need to be put in the mix, right?
Yes. So when you say your grandfather, was this your mother's father, your dad's father, your mother's own father had her being followed? Do you know why?
Well, you want me to get into that a little bit about my grandpa? Okay.
Sure.
So here,
is he still alive, your grandpa, or no?
No, they're not. They've passed. And
okay.
To preface this, I am who I am today because of my grandparents. So my grandparents were absolutely amazing to me.
Okay.
They were absolutely, they saved my life for what it probably would have been. I am lucky to have been a part of their life like I was. They were amazing.
Okay.
However, I also know that my grandpa was not the same person to me that he was to everybody else.
Okay.
He was not a good dad. Not good in the sense that he was rough. He was harsh. He was hard on his kids. There was an expectation, if you were Ray Anderson's child, to act a certain way. Now, here's why. He was a fairly influential individual in that time. He was a builder, a large builder in that day and age. He built over 1,000 homes in the 50s and 60s, which if you are a builder now is not as significant because you can build big plats, but it didn't work that way back then.
I understand. Yeah.
Home was a custom home back then, right?
Yeah. And they used better products and everything. The homes were built better back then.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So yes. So it was a much bigger deal. Excuse me. I'm plugging in my phone.
That's okay. Take your time. Mine the same way. You good? Oh, we might have lost her. You still there? Jamie, we lost you. Hang on. Oh, there you are. You're good. You're good. You're back. We lost your sound, Jamie. Your sound. Maybe you have to click back in. Go out and come back in. All right. For some reason, I can't hear you. All right, guys, listen. Before Jamie comes back in, right now what we're doing is Jamie's mother. She was only 2 years old, 1978. She goes to a disco in Seattle, Washington called Fango's. She gets an argument with the man that she supposedly was going to meet there. She was also had friends. She goes walking home. Okay, she goes walking home and never seen again. Absolutely never seen again. The only evidence they have is this driver's license found at an intersection 10 miles away from where she went missing. No signs or anything since 1978. Like she vanished from the face of the earth, folks. So that's why I have Jamie on. This story is incredible. It's just incredible that no one has seen her or heard from her ever since. Now, Jamie tells me that since she's been doing this, folks, the cops now have put an ad or a classified in the paper any information on this case. And like I always say, being a cop, the squeaky wheel gets attention. So if you're squeaking that wheel, it's going to get attention. Oh, welcome, William. Welcome, William. So hopefully Jamie can get back on. She got knocked out for some reason. Let's hope she can get back on. In fact, I'm gonna just squeak over, see if I can get back on, and we'll get right back on her. Let me see if I can get her on the show. Hang on. Trying to see Jamie here, guys. I can't find her. But listen, we'll just wait till she comes back. Oh, there she is. She's back. We're good. We're good. Jamie's back. Thanks for waiting. We're back.
Sorry, guys.
I told your story over again.
Okay.
So everybody's caught up.
Okay. So we were talking about my grandpa. So yes, so he was very influential. So he was a builder. I don't know how he became so influential. I mean, obviously he built a lot of homes, building 1,000 in that time period. But besides that, I don't understand exactly, but like Seattle Times is the biggest paper out here.
Okay.
And I have paper after paper of him, like my mom, my aunt, and my uncle just sitting on a couch at one of his open houses. So obviously he had some kind, he was pretty influential that way.
Okay.
The other thing is he built a church called Westgate Chapel, which in Snohomish County, I believe I think it's the biggest church here. And he was very, very powerful and influential because of that.
Okay.
So he had a lot of people that would do anything for him. And he was very dictator like in that church. His brother was the pastor. A lot of just control, very controlling with everybody.
Okay. So he was controlling them with his kids too. Was your mom his only child?
No, there's 3 kids. She's the baby.
Okay.
She's the baby. And it from all accounts, because of course I wasn't there, but from all accounts, she, of all of the kids, like when they would go on these family vacations, because they had money and they would go with everybody from church would all go. It's all the same people. Everybody could sleep outside in Lake Chelan, right? In the warm temperatures. And my mom had to stay inside for some reason.
Oh, geez. Yeah, it's definitely strange. Now, have you talked to the other siblings? How do they feel about all of this?
One of the really odd things in this whole situation is that my Uncle Ken, so he's the oldest, he will not talk about my mom. He will not talk to me. He hates my guts. And I mean, we've never talked. He's hated me since I was a little child.
Okay.
Will have nothing to do with me. He did not like my mom. He went on record with a couple of interviews with the newspapers and said that she was running a fast life and dating a lot of men, and spoke poorly of her, basically saying she deserved it, right?
Oh my God. Jeez.
And he won't talk about it at all. My aunt is great. I mean, she'll talk about it. She's been the only person in that family that has talked about it in an open way with me on a regular basis. And I think she's starting to realize as well over time that the things, either that or she says she does, I assume she does, like that the things she has believed are things that she's been told, not things she really knows.
Right. So let me ask you this. So the cops interviewed her ex-husband, which was your father. Yep. They interviewed the guy that she was with. They didn't interview any of your family members, her family members? Listen, Jamie, the cops back then they didn't know what we knew. And back in the 70s, I want people to know this, and this is the truth. Some of these cops back in the 70s didn't even go through the academy. I'm telling you, it was like that back then. And now you got academies, and cops are continuing education. There's detectives. Was this a small town? I'm not familiar. Oh, well, Seattle, no. What the heck am I thinking? That's right. Yeah. But where she was found, who took the investigation, though?
Here's what happened. So so it was right in Lake City. I mean, they have their own police department, but for some reason, Lake City didn't want the case. And well, this is how it is told. Lake City didn't want the case. Seattle didn't want the case. So King County inherited the case, and they were not happy about it.
Right. So, see, to me, Seattle should have took the case because that's where she was missing from. That's where the crime probably happened. If she was kidnapped, if she was murdered, that's where the crime happened at. Seattle should have took the case, not where the driver's license was found. Right. You know what I mean? I believe the crime happened in Seattle. You know, you're looking at a jurisdiction problem, but not really. You got to find out. I believe the crime happened where your mom was abducted, which was probably outside the club somewhere as she was walking home. That's my guess.
Yes.
I mean, but for them not to interview, listen, when somebody's missing, okay, you should interview all family members because there may be something. She might have told the family member, listen, I'm thinking about running away. I'm thinking about just leaving. I'm thinking about this. So you interview family members to see what was going on up here with your mom. Was she depressed? Did she want to go away? Was she suicidal? So even though your mom probably wasn't, you have to look at them different things. So you have to go and interview all family members. This was, again, bad police work. I'm not afraid to say and call out bad police work. This was horrible, bad police work. It was. And if they're not doing nothing now, see, this is what they should do. They should give this to the cold case detectives and let them run with this. They should come back, re-interview all the family members that are still alive. And then even if that guy's still alive from the bar, I know he passed the lie detector test, but maybe he knows something. Maybe he wasn't involved, but maybe he heard something. Maybe your mom said something now, 45 years later, he's thinking, you know what? She did say this because somebody knows something. Your mom just didn't disappear and nobody knows something. I will guarantee you somebody knows something. I guarantee it. Don't you agree?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, there's no way. But there's no way that, I mean, again, she would have had to just walked off, but it doesn't really fit the scenario. If she was going to leave, and I'm not, listen, I'm the last person to say, oh, there's no way. Everybody says, oh, she never would have left you. Well, that's all great. And I appreciate the sentiment, but people do. It still happens. And so, but for her to leave in the middle of the night, like, oh, I'm just going to go at 12:30 at night and walk away. That doesn't really make sense. I'm not saying it's a possibility, but probably not. But I think the bigger thing is that there were a ton of people at this bar. There were people outside in the parking lot. There's people driving, and not one person saw her ever.
They definitely said someone's seen something. And yet, let me ask you this, just to clear my head as a detective, that route that she was walking home, was there lakes? Was there rivers? Was there any water around there?
It's literally across the street from Lake Washington.
Okay. I'm just thinking if somebody did something to your mom, where they could hide her. And I hate talking like this, Jamie, but you have to think that way because I'm thinking if they did something to your mom and he tried to hide the body, hide your mother, water would be the number one thing people do. It really is. Or they try to bury somebody or something like that. Sure. Did they search that area where your mom went missing? Did they have search parties?
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's what I've been told, and I think you'll understand this well because of what you did. They treated her like a missing person.
Okay.
So there was very little done. So, like the license is found, right? And you would think, even on the King County website, it talks about how here's what they're supposed to do and here's their responsibilities. And well, none of that was done. There wasn't search parties. They didn't do cadaver dogs around, this or nothing, zero.
Right.
And you have this influential person that didn't ask for any of this stuff, didn't force this stuff, didn't call and say, why aren't you doing this stuff?
Right. And you know what? Now that you're thinking about, I'm thinking about, I became a cop 10 years later. So I became a cop in 1988. So this happened in 1978. Even when I became a cop in 1988, say you called me as an adult daughter and said, hey, my mom didn't come back from the store, right? Mm-hmm. They would make us back then wait like 48 hours before you made a missing person, unless you felt your mom was mentally in danger or something like that, I would make you fill out a declaration saying that you felt your mom was in danger. And this way we could put her in a system called NCIC. What NCIC is, it's a missing database, arrest warrant database that goes to all police departments in the United States. So say your mom was stopped on a traffic stop in Pennsylvania, they would know that your mom is a missing person. But to get her in that database, I made you have to fill out a form saying that you felt your mom's in danger. Because if not, they made you wait. So I forgot. You were totally right. Back then, they made you wait. Now, with juveniles, they let right away you can put them in. But an adult, it used to be 48 hours. I totally forgot about that. You're 100% right.
Yeah. So, and it appears that they never switched from that, right?
Okay.
So there were family, and oddly, the Westgate Chapel youth went, and after the license was found, they went and did a search. How odd to me that you would have youth group go look for somebody. What if you found something? Anyways,
right.
Very odd, but yes, there was not police organized searches. I asked those questions, and I've been told there was these big searches. No, there wasn't. And yeah, no, not very little. I bet there were friends, and my aunt. I mean, there were people doing that themselves, but nothing, no big organized in any way.
Well, I can tell you just off the subject a little bit, Jamie. We are getting the word out because this is the most people I've had on here right now since we've been doing the podcast. So you got a lot of people. We're going to get this out. We're going to do clips of it and everything because I truly believe in these cases, somebody knows something. Listen, I always say this, Jamie. I say the police do not solve cases. The public does. The police are fact gatherers. The public knows what happened, what they heard, what they seen, sometimes even what they smell. It could solve a case, and the public solves cases, not the police. So somebody out there knows something, and what you're doing, going on podcasts, getting the word out there, TikTok is an amazing tool. Amazing. So keep doing what you're doing. I'm telling you, you're going to get the word out there. Now, we talked a little bit off air. Do you have anything like, and you don't have to say names, do you feel in your gut it was definitely this person? And you don't have to say names so that they don't come back and sue you someday. But I mean, do you have an idea that you feel it's this person?
No, I don't specifically. Here's what I can say. I can say that I don't, after this last year and 5 months that I have been diving deep into this with my cousin and a great friend that has been willing to join me. I don't know how it would be possible if my family wasn't involved. I would be surprised, to be honest. Now,
okay.
that's not the answer, right? But right. I was surprised. I think that if you hear that someone is having somebody followed and then they're bold enough to call you and say, hey, why are you with so-and-so? What are you doing there? Why are you here? You're not supposed to be here. This is not an appropriate place. You're embarrassing me. You're supposed to act a certain way, be a certain way, do a certain thing. Why are you doing this, that, and the other? And they're not hiding what they're doing. And then all of a sudden she's gone. I just have a hard time thinking that there's not more information that they were a part of, right?
I totally see your suspicion. I mean, that's if somebody's following somebody and then so you're saying that they let them know they're following them too because they're like, hey, I know where you're at, and this isn't it is in 2024 where you could put them on your phone and know where they are and stuff like that, right? Because you can give your spouse access to where you are at the time and they can look on your iPhone. Back then, there was none of that. So definitely she had to be followed if they're saying that they seen you, right?
Yes. And she told several friends, and there was even one of the pastors of the church knew she was being followed, confirmed that he knew that she was being.
How old was your mom at the time again?
24.
24. Wow. I mean.
And she wasn't a child to follow around.
I was thinking it's not like your mom was 16 years old and they were worried about her. She's a grown adult with a child.
They've done
her own family.
Bills. Yep.
But I think back, now 70s was a little different in the times now. I mean, I think back at my mother. when she was growing up, she wasn't able to date my father. And she would tell me that her father was so strict, she used to have to hide to go out and date my dad. She wasn't allowed to wear shorts out. She would have to put shorts in a bag, go out to her car, and then change into shorts. It was a different time back then. Am I right? So we got to realize that it was totally a different time back then. You know, would you agree with me?
Yes, that's exactly what my mom did. She would hide makeup and hide clothes and go to school and change her clothes into what she wanted to wear and put makeup on. And she was not allowed to wear that stuff or wear makeup all the way through high school.
Yeah, my mom said the same thing. And listen, my grandfather was a great man, but he was very strict with his daughters. Like my mom would say, like you said, she'd have to pack a bag, make sure he didn't check the bag so she could change as she could put shorts on in the summer because she wasn't allowed to wear shorts. So it was different. Let me ask you, Jamie, was your family religious at all?
Very.
Okay, I grew up in a religious family too. Were you guys Catholic? What were you?
Just Christian. So the church that my grandpa started was just non-denominational Christian.
Okay, so but they work. Yeah, that religion bears a fact into that too. Sometimes, you know, it definitely does. It's crazy. I just watched a crazy documentary last night on Netflix from Spain, and it was the same thing. A daughter ends up getting murdered because of how crazy this religious family was. Yeah. Honestly, it's insane sometimes that it happens to. First of all, if you look, John Benet Ramsey case, right? It happens to rich people. It happens to religious people. I mean, how many rich people's kids go missing? How many religious people end up murdering their kids? I mean, it happens all the time. It seems to me it's religion and people that are wealthy. These things happen. To me. I mean, I could be totally wrong. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Well, I would say that's true, but there's a couple of caveats that are a little odd as well. So my grandfather had several siblings, and one of his sister's daughters was also murdered. Unsolved.
What? Say that again. Your grandfather's sister was murdered. Is that what you said?
My grandfather's sister's daughter, so his niece,
was murdered. Was that suspicious too?
Yes.
Did she go missing and then found murdered? How did that? No way.
She was taken out of her child. She was at her sister's house. I might balk the story. I might not be 100% accurate, but
okay.
In her sister's home, and she had her baby. I think the baby was 11 months old, and baby was in the high chair, and she was feeding her baby, and she vanished. So they came home to the baby in the high chair. She was gone. They found her. I think it was either 2 or 3 weeks later. They found her body.
Do you know where they found the body?
I don't. I would be speaking offhand if I said something. I don't recall.
Okay. Do you know how she was murdered? Gun, knife? No. Strangled?
No. Okay. Top of my head, I don't know why. I can't remember right now, but
that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I just that's strange for that to happen to the same family twice.
So the FBI.
And I know it's different generations, but still, that is strange. I'm sorry, that's strange.
Strange. And the FBI actually, I did not know this. I was just informed of this, I don't know, sometime in the last handful of months, but the FBI actually came and spoke to my grandpa about it because of that reason. They said, it's a little odd that 2 families have a daughter either murdered or missing at some, I don't know when they came, like, was it when that his niece was missing still, right? So now there's 2 missing. I'm not sure, but
right.
I don't know what came of that. It's something that I've thought about looking into and maybe calling and talking about, but I haven't gone down that path yet. There's another story. There's a couple, but one other thing that stands out as just questionable character, maybe. So his brother, so my great uncle, the pastor.
Okay.
Roger Anderson and Ray, my grandfather, Roger's daughter had 3 children, and the 3 children with a man of color, which back then was a bigger deal to a white religious family.
Correct. Exactly. You're 100% correct. Yeah.
Yep. But he married them. So Roger married them. They met at Bible college.
Okay.
I don't really understand or know the ins and outs of the marriage, but let's just say they had 3 kids, a boy, a girl, and a boy in that order. And on her son's first birthday, Ray and Roger came and took the son and handed him over at the airport to the dad to never be seen again.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So it's just, and mind you, the story was that because I said the color that this gentleman was brown. I say that because they used that as they took him back to his homeland and raised him back in. Well, here's the thing. He wasn't the firstborn son. He was the thirdborn son.
Okay.
Raised in California.
Oh my God. Yeah. He's raised in Yes. Yeah. So that don't make sense, right?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Just things that don't normally happen. How do all these things happen to one family and you not look at the family and go, this stuff is a little odd?
This stuff is like really odd. For somebody to go missing in your family, what are the odds of somebody just going missing? But this to happen, it's just crazy. Yeah. Just one person to go missing in your family is the odds. I'm a math guy. I go by statistics because I play poker, and the statistics of that happening are not good. They're not good. I go by everything with statistics. And if this is the other thing, Jamie, I go by this. I went like this when I was a cop. If your gut's telling you something's not right, they did studies on your gut, right? 90% of the time, your gut instincts are right. I always say, I live in Vegas, right? If the slot machines paid out 90% of the time, I would make a living. I'd just go down to the strip. So your gut instincts are right 9 out of 10 times. So you stay with them gut instincts. It's something special I believe God gave us. He gave us that gut feeling where you walk into a room, you know something's not right, okay? And for your mom to be missing just out of the blue and then another relative be missing, it doesn't seem right to me. If you think something stinks, it probably does. Let's put it that way.
I agree.
Would you agree?
I would agree for sure. There's another. I want to tell one more story, and then just because I think it's an important part of the story.
Go ahead. Yes. Anything you may think, because somebody might know something. It might hit something.
So, in the church, Westgate Chapel, there was a third gentleman that was considered and called by many my grandpa's right-hand man. His name was Jim Hansen, and he was the youth leader. Him and my mom were really close. And all these families, again, vacationed together, spent tons of time together. Knew each other very, very well for years and years. So 2 years after she disappeared, and then his wife are in Hawaii.
Okay.
Be specific, which Westgate Chapel is it's like kind of like a sacred place. I don't even know how to explain it. Like my grandparents owned a condo there. Roger married his daughter there. Now it's funny, even the younger generation now takes their kids there because it kind of became a thing because the older generation went there. It's just because it's not it was a very old place back then. So anyways, 2 years after, they were on the beach. Jim and his wife are on the beach, and his wife is sunbathing, and Jim's walking down the beach. And as the story goes, he comes face to face with my mom. And he says, Barb, and she looks at him and turns and runs.
So he's saying that he's seen your mom after she went missing.
2 years after.
And he swears to this.
He told, well, let me finish. Okay, let me finish so you understand. Okay, so he, of course, she went running. So he kind of in shock, right? Of course, because you just did what Ray said. Everybody just did what my grandpa said, right? So nobody asked questions. Nobody asked how the investigation was going. Everybody was afraid. And I'm saying that because they have all told me that. I'm talking cousins, friends. It doesn't matter. Everybody says that. You just assumed Ray was handling it because you weren't going to ask questions because he would ruin your life. Okay. So he ran back, got his wife and said, I just saw Barb. And so they kind of looked around and couldn't find her. So they went back up to their hotel or to their condo, and they made a phone call, of course, to my grandpa, to Ray, and said, hey, Ray, I just saw Barb. And my grandpa's response was, Jim, you're crazy. Click. That's it.
Why would he say that?
Why would he not go look?
Right. Why would he say that?
I don't care if you're out of a funny farm and I know you're sick in the head and something's wrong with you. I don't care. I'm going to look and see just in case. He did nothing. He didn't call detectives. He didn't go to Hawaii. He had money. He didn't hire somebody. He didn't get on a plane. He didn't go stay in his very own condo that he owned in Kihei and look for her. Nothing.
Wow. Listen, and just off the top of my head, Jamie, I'm trained in like, I can actually read people's statements and see if they're lying in their statement. But the one thing you look at, like say somebody's missing, like your mother, right? And we would have brought that guy in that was with her at that disco. If he said, you know, she was a good person, she was. If he uses that word, she was, he knows she's gone. She knows he's gone, right? If you start using that past tense, you know what I mean? That past tense, that is a key that person knows something's wrong. To me, and I'm just saying this, I'm not saying your grandfather had anything to do with this, but him hanging up on him when he's saying that, I'd be like, you got to be fucking kidding me, and I'd be running down to the beach, right? Wouldn't you?
100%. And so now to say what you said, Jim then went and he told everybody that story. Like he told, I would venture to guess between myself and my cousin, we have talked to at least 50 people. It could be more, but at least 50. I have spoke to 2 out of the 50 that have not heard that story directly from Jim's mouth. He told everybody, begging somebody to do something about it. He 100% believed that he saw her. He knew her well. It was only 2 years after she disappeared. It was not 15, 20 years later where she would look different. And it wasn't some random guy in a church congregation that hardly ever saw her.
Yeah. Wow. Let me ask you this. Do you believe he saw her? You don't know, right? You just don't know.
Why would he lie? But that would mean I was believing she was alive, and I don't know I don't know what to believe anymore. I've found out so much weird things. If that's the case, that means that, so my grandpa declared her dead. He got a death certificate for her 3 years after she disappeared. He tried before that, but the law is 7 years, and he got one in 3.5 years. He then went to Social Security, and he got benefits from Social Security when he didn't have custody of me.
Okay.
So he was able to get all of these things done in that 3.5 year period, but not go look for his kid. So he was really about doing all this other stuff, and that's great. He did spend it on me. He sent me to private Christian school. Again, they were amazing to me, right?
I understand.
But you're doing a lot of things. Go look for your child. Spend your money on looking for your daughter.
Right. Let me ask you something, Jamie. Do you still have a relationship with your father?
I do.
Okay. What does he ever think? Does he think this is suspicious? What does he think?
It's a little tough because we're live and who knows who's watching, but I'll do my best. I'll be honest. So through my life, I was told a lot of things that didn't match up about my mom's story. I mean, for the longest time, I was sure Ted Bundy killed her because almost her exact story is on, like, Ted Bundy's movies. It matches almost exactly. I mean, almost exactly. And of course, nobody would correct me because then I would be asking questions. But my dad, I will say, over the years, I have found has been the most honest, which maybe is not always the case in life. And so right. I'm grateful for that because he has never said don't ask about her, always allowed me to talk about her and ask questions. I also will say that there needs to be a new conversation now that for some reason I have not had with him about the fact that we're in a place right now that we're going to find out really soon what happened. And we need to have another conversation. You know what I mean? Like I haven't sat down and said, listen, this is where this is at right now. And we're getting closer and closer. And I need to know anything you know, or don't know, or we don't anything. I need to know whatever. And for some reason, I'm scared of that conversation.
My gosh, I'll be honest with you, Jamie. Now that you told me that she was seen, hey, listen, if I ever get my private investigation license in Seattle or Washington State, I'm gonna come and investigate this. This is unbelievable. Now that, my God, there could be a possibility your mom could be alive too.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy, but there's that possibility.
Yes, and I there is, and I will tell you that in all of those people that we have talked to, one of my main questions, because of him saying he saw her, I want to know his credibility, right? So is this somebody that you trust his word? Did you, would, if he told you that, I don't know, this car is yours, I saw Barb in Hawaii, would you believe it? Not
right.
One person said they wouldn't believe him. Not one.
So he's a man of his word, this guy. Oh my gosh. This is even, honestly, talking to you, I thought this case was like interesting, just your mom being missing. And now you're telling me somebody's seen her back. So it would have been 1980. They seen her. She went missing in 78. Your mom would be in her 70s right now. Am I correct?
She would be 70. Mm-hmm.
70 exactly. Okay, 70 exactly. Oh my gosh. Oh, and now listen, your mom, is your grandmother passed too? So her parents are gone? I assume, yeah, they'd be in their 90s or something, right? Mm-hmm. Right. I assume they would be gone. Oh my gosh. Did you ever talk to your grandmother about this?
No. And I'll tell you, all I can hope or believe is that it was a God thing. Who knows what I would have found out or not. Here's what I know. My grandpa never talked about her ever. And I mean, I don't know that I ever had a conversation about my mom with my grandpa in any way.
Wow.
My grandmother, though, there's no way she would ever have had any involvement in any way ever. She was the greatest lady on the planet. And she loved hard and loved her kids and loved me. And, she would say stuff like, your humor is just like your mom's, or, your laugh reminds me of your mom, or how strong I am. She would at least have the words would come out of her mouth, at least, right? Her name would come out of her mouth. But not real. Here's what they said. This is what they said. Okay, I'll tell you one thing my grandpa said about my mom.
Okay.
Is that a couple months after she disappeared, he had a dream that she was in heaven, and that was good enough for him.
Wow.
And so my grandma believed everything my grandpa said, and so she believed the same thing, and so they moved on.
I can tell you this. My daughters right now are 27 and 31, right? If my daughters went missing, and I'm going to knock on wood, I would spend till they put me in that casket every second, every minute looking for my daughter. It would be my life's fucking mission. I couldn't even imagine not looking for her. I couldn't even imagine.
That's how I feel. And that's why it's now my mission, because I believe she was cheated. But if she left on her own will, then you're not being cheated, right? So that's an answer I don't know exactly. There's a lot of things that people question, like, my grandfather was considered a wealthy man. And there was an assumption, there were only 7 people, besides, not minusing my mom,
right.
siblings left, and 5 cousins. That's it. So right. It was an assumption that we were wealthy when they died, like wealthy.
Right.
And when people that, like cousins, they were appalled. Like, they were like, what do you mean you guys aren't, what? He was a multi-millionaire. What do you mean you guys aren't wealthy? So right. The money that seems like we asked the church if there were large donations, and there, he tithes a lot of money, but not the way, like, he didn't give $5 million to the church, right? So that's kind of what we were looking for, was, did you give all of your money to a church? That didn't happen. And so there's some thoughts that, there's a possibility that, like, she's somewhere and was living off his money, basically, right? That's right. A theory,
Oh, okay. So I get what you're saying. You're saying your dad just wanted your mom away and gave her money. Is that what you're thinking?
Her dad, yeah.
Her dad, yes. I mean her dad. I'm sorry. Yeah. Wow. This is such a crazy story. And now, Jamie, honestly, I feel for you. And honestly, I'm not a big religious man, but I am going to pray that you get some kind of closure in this, because I think to myself, I can't even imagine now, it's one thing thinking your mom is murdered, but to think your mom could still be alive. I mean, there's that possibility, especially you telling me. I mean, there's a possibility. And thinking back then, we just don't have the equipment, because think about that driver's license they found. They'd be able to get DNA off that now.
Yep.
They'd be able to know who handled that driver's license. Back then, there was no such thing. And if they still had that driver's license in the evidence, they could still process that. You know what I mean? That's how cold cases are getting solved now.
Okay, Danny. So here's the other thing. So
go ahead.
I had a conversation with a family member who, and again, I told you we've interviewed lots of people, and so I said, I asked this family member if we could sit down and have a conversation. It's kind of an ex-family member, a divorce situation.
Okay.
And, he said great, which not everybody has said great. It's been hard to get some people to talk. And so my cousin and I just, basically tell us what you remember, because this person is going to remember a lot of that time. And his exact words were, and I mean, I just said, tell me about significant periods of what you remember, not steering it in any way. And he says, well, one thing I remember is under the direction of Ray, so grandpa, her dad, we met at this place. We didn't know why, but nobody questioned him, so it didn't matter. And while we were there, someone found her license.
Oh, that is so weird.
So
wait a second. Let me process again. They went to meet at this place and they just happened to find her license there. Oh, that's a bullshit story. I'm sorry. I'm calling that one out. That just don't seem right. That's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Well, you're talking 10 miles north, and it just happens to be by the guy that she was with that night, by his house. But you would only know that how? Maybe if you were having her followed.
Right.
I mean, throwing that out there. I'm just saying, but
Yeah. No. And let me ask you something. I think I asked you before. The guy he's still alive. That guy who was in the bar. Have you ever talked to him?
Well, no, because I was respecting the police's boundaries for the last 5 months, and so I haven't spoke to anybody that was with her that night that would be considered a suspect of some kind. I've been respectful of that.
Yeah, and you know what? Now that they're kind of reopening it, you told me that it was, they might be reopening and looking into it. Yeah, don't do that. let them interview him, because you don't want to impede in their investigation. So yeah, I totally agree with that. But oh my gosh, this is more crazy than I thought. Like I researched the case, but I didn't know everything. This is a really crazy case. And honestly, talking to you, I can't guarantee that your mom's not alive either after hearing this.
I know.
She might be alive.
That's why when people ask me, they don't understand why they think you have to have some gut instinct. At this point, I'm so confused. I have no idea.
I know. Oh my gosh. And Jamie, do you have kids?
I have 5.
Okay. So I'm assuming your kids would probably help you with this. I mean, I know I'd be helping you. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, because they'd want to know who their Could you imagine them seeing their grandma after all these years? Did you guys ever take a 23andMe test?
I have not. I can't really tell you why that is. My cousin has, and we also, when the Green River Killer, which everyone wants to say it's either Gary Ridgway or Ted Bundy, which Gary Ridgway still would be on the. Ted Bundy was in jail, so he can't be at one of the suspects. I don't know why I haven't, to be honest. But anyways, they have her DNA because when they caught Gary Ridgway, there were a couple of unidentified bodies that she kind of were similar, and so luckily my grandparents were both still alive, so they were able to come get their DNA for an exact match. But I have not. I've had a couple of, what do they call them? I can't think of the verbiage right now. That is the newer.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yes.
Were they putting it in some other database now and doing?
Yes, they can put it in another database and even tells you more. I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
it's like, what's the difference? Like, it's already out there. Like, if there's anybody related to me, my cousin's it's gonna be matched to her. So, but they keep saying that's not really the case. Like, I need to do it. So I probably should. I just haven't.
I was just, listen, I didn't do it either. My daughter has done that 23andMe, but I was just thinking that it could be a miracle. Your mom somehow, it could, you know what I mean? You could, I don't know. I'd probably, if I was you, I'd probably do it just for hopes. You know what I mean? I hope something
Already
comes from it.
attached to my cousin, though, if she had done it,
Yeah, you know what? You were totally right, because when my daughter did it, I looked at what her results were, and basically they're my results, whatever my daughter's is, because my DNA is part of my daughter too. So yeah, you're right. Her doing it would probably show up. I agree with you, Dan.
What is it called? Forensic. I can't think of what the wording is not coming to me, but whatever that other, I've had 2 people now contact me and say it really is different and you should do it. So I'm open for everything. People don't understand this is a full-time job, and I actually have 2 other full-time jobs. So this is not only is this a lot of work, but it's emotionally exhausting. So
I totally agree with you. I had a girl on my podcast about 5 weeks ago. Her mother was murdered. Also, she was in the house when her mom was murdered. She was like 7 or 6 years old. They know the suspect, and he's never been arrested. That poor girl knows who did it. That's and awesome. Has no justice. The police never arrested him, again, because of bad police work. Listen, I talk about this all the time. The first officer on that scene is the most important officer. He needs to know what to do. He needs to know how to preserve evidence. And I hate to say this, Jamie, back in the 70s, they didn't even know what they were doing. I hate to say that, because I think I became a cop in the late 80s, and then I retired in 2016, and I was not the same cop I was in 1988 that I was in 2016. Of course, I was a better cop with better technology. We didn't have DNA. We barely even had fingerprints back then. You know what I mean? So I hate to say this, but if this happened now, I believe your mom's case would have been solved if it happened now. I really do. With that driver's license, they'd be able to get something off that driver's license.
Well, but if it never really, here's the thing: if it wasn't really found by a road construction worker, and so I mean, there's a story behind it that may be different than it really was, right? So maybe it was never there. I mean, who knows?
Right. If somebody put it there just trying to throw people off too.
Right. And the other thing is that it's an understanding that the detective went to Westgate Chapel.
He went, the detective of the case. Is he still alive? Okay. Wow. Now, have you talked to anybody from the PD since?
I have. Well, yeah. So I met with them when they reopened the case a year ago.
Okay.
And then I have been in contact with the detective that took the case a handful of times. I'm not the kind of, I've given him a ton of leeway. I'm not the kind of person that says, why aren't you calling me every day with an update? I would literally email him every 3 months and ask how things were going, because I got no updates. And then when I found the information out about the license and I confirmed it, when I left, I called this guy back and said, I need to confirm something, because here's what I've been told my whole life, right? And so I called the detective. It took 3 weeks to get a phone conversation with him to tell him about this. That's still never been followed up on. Never. This was last. And then in February, what spurred me now to force the issue in the last few weeks is the response I got was basically, as time allows, I'll schedule time for your mom. And I just, I'm shortening his words, but I didn't like that answer. And
oh, we lost Jamie. Wait, her phone might have died. There we are. That's all right.
I don't have time for that. I don't have time to wait. And I'm not going to let you keep pushing it out like that. So
I agree, Jamie. I agree. I wouldn't either. And here's the thing. I'm gonna tell you this. I want you back on if you get any more information. Would you come back on? You there? You can't hear me? I think we lost her. Could you hear Jamie? Oh, there you are. I can hear you now. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Nothing? Oh, we can hear you. Go ahead and talk. We can hear you. Can people hear us out there? Do we lose sound? Guys, anybody on YouTube, could you hear us? Could you hear me? Could you hear Jamie? Maybe we lost. Maybe they hit the hour. Yeah, they can hear us both. Could you hear me now?
There we go.
Okay, yeah, they can hear us. They can hear both of us.
Yeah, I was.
So Jamie, we'll clear this up. We'll end this. Is there anything you didn't tell us? Anything you want people to take from this? Share it, right?
Yes, please share. Please. We have a Facebook page. Where is Barbara McClure? Please go on there. Like, share. Just help us get the word out. That's the most. I don't have time.
Right. And listen, guys, what I'll do is I'm going to put her Facebook group page on my page, my Facebook group page, and please follow. Because the more people we can get to follow, the more way to get the word out. I'm telling you, I know how things are. The public solves the case, not the police. The public knows something. And if Jamie, if you ever need my help, you want to come back on this podcast, and I am definitely willing to, give me a call. We can FaceTime each other and show me the evidence, and I can give you my expert opinion.
I appreciate that. I will tell you that I'm meeting with the chief, King County, of major crimes next week, and Seasons of Justice is paying for a billboard to go up in the next few days.
Awesome.
My mom. So there will be lots of things coming. So.
Okay. And Jamie, keep me updated, and I promise you I'll continue, and I'll put bits and pieces out on social media, and I'll keep up to date on the case.
Thank you so much, Danny.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.